Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Atlanta Startup Podcast. I am Waima DK, the Managing Director of Startup Runway, the leading platform linking underrepresented founders to capital and investors. Now, on this episode of the Atlanta Startup Podcast, I am so super excited to welcome Keith Chaney, founder of Peadbo. Peadbo was one of the winners of the most recent Startup Runway Pitch Showcase, the 24th edition. He was the winner of the Judges Prize for Most Investable Startup. So with that, I would like to thank you, Keith. Keith, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you for that big check. I appreciate
it. We hear that people like that part. So we'll keep doing it. But
Absolutely.
let's jump right in. Please share a bit about Peadbo, and in particular, share with the audience how you came about that name.
Absolutely. So Peadbo is actually shorthand for personal advisory board. And it's exactly what it sounds like. We believe that in the same way, pretty much any company you can think of understands they need a board to help them win and keep moving up and to the right. We believe individuals should take that same approach and form dedicated teams to help them reach their goals, hold them accountable, and help them make connections. Because a lot of most of successful journeys are rooted in connections.
Awesome. And one of the things that the judges noted that they were super excited about was your traction to date. And that's hence you got the prize from amongst all the finalists. So one, I would like for you to share about what you have been the most rewarding about the progress you've made so far. And on the flip end, some of the challenging pieces about the journey so far.
Yeah, for sure. I think some of the most rewarding things, at a high level are, to your point, some of our traction, which includes, a 2-year contract with Carnegie Mellon University, a partnership with the White House, but more specifically, it's some of the individual stories. Even before we had a platform, myself and my co-founders, one of which is my sister, we would do what we called non-technical pilots. And so we would just coach people on like what having a board, could look like and how it could be manageable, among all the other things you have to do. And we started to see people get promotions and new jobs and really life-changing, transformations because they had this support system and they were able to structure it in a way that didn't kind of take over their lives. And so that is by far the most exciting aspect of it, is seeing that this thing works if you work it. And which takes me to like the challenge. And that's that, our biggest challenge by far is that we're asking people to change their behavior. And that's always going to be a lift. It can be uncomfortable. It can be intimidating. We're learning, the idea of having your own board and like running a quote board meeting. But it actually doesn't have to be. And so we're very strategic about our messaging and making sure that people understand this is a light lift. Especially if you use the platform, as opposed to asking someone to mentor you, we coach people to ask for 6 hours a year. And just that ask, changes how a lot of people are thinking about the commitment. And then you just have structured board meetings. Like, once a quarter, I meet with my own board and they kick my butt and they tell me all the things that I'm not thinking about that I should be, and how we can improve our strategy, how we can grow faster. But it is truly one of the best hours of each quarter for me because it helps me to fine tune my strategy and really position us to succeed.
And what I personally gravitate to this format, one with part of the Startup Runway Day includes a board meeting.
Yeah.
And we've seen that even that short interaction helps folks bring forth challenges that they might not have thought about before and get some insight. And so I know that it works even in that format. And so one of the things I'm curious about is how some of the large entities that you've engaged are giving you feedback about Peadbo and how they are they getting it? Are they not getting it? Is there any challenges in how you talk about the value
Yeah.
to the university, for example?
Yeah. For the university, it's a unique value proposition because it really is, double double the incentive for them. And what I mean is, I like to joke, if I can get your career services person and your alumni relations person, then I think I'm in a good position, because in addition to, I think, the clear value, which is, you have rising juniors and seniors, they're looking to get good jobs. They may need help negotiating salaries or with interview prep. Like, it's very clear the value add to those students and positioning them for success. What the universities really like is their position to ask alums for something other than money. And
Mhm.
so, if I'm sure your alma mater sends you a lot of emails and,
They sure
this
do. And
donation
ask for money.
campaign, hey, we could use some money. And understandable, things cost money. Now they're saying, hey, if you could spare 6 hours to serve on the board of one of our rising juniors and seniors this year, you know, and the volunteers or the alums are saying, absolutely, I'll be on 2 or 3. Could you give me someone who's in this fraternity, or this one who's in this major? Because there's that connection there. The schools know engaged alumni are 3 or 4 times as likely to donate. And so
Mhm.
it's an awesome way to get them engaged, but also to not neglect, that bottom line, which is another one of their bigger KPIs as a university. And so, they're enjoying that. Um, it has been a challenge to get some of the students to do it, which again
Mhm.
is, the behavior change. But when they do, they're seeing some really, really big impact. They're getting introduced to companies that don't necessarily recruit on campus. They're being prepped to interview, and in some cases, as we know, the corporate world works. They're getting some side door access to those companies. Hey, don't
Mhm.
worry about that. Just let me introduce you to so and so, and we'll figure out the details. And that's what I hope becomes kind of democratized. Yeah, I
Mhm.
remember being an undergrad and having my resume and my GPA and trying to apply for all these companies, and some of my peers, their dad knew somebody. And so they got that side door access. And I
Mhm.
want everyone to be able to leverage their community, leverage their, university network, and if possible, gain some of that access so that they can reap those benefits the way a lot of other people do.
Nice. And so that makes so much sense to me. I have little cousins that I want to send your way, that they want to bug me to get on, to get into different doors and access, and I love that, because that's
Yeah.
the energy that is necessary to be able to get those first opportunities. But that the people formalizes it and also expands that bit of hustle as well is
Yeah.
amazing. And so beyond universities, like what other areas are you hoping to get and see the value and apply?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Peadbo.
So this year we're hyper focused on B2B growth. You know, HR managers, talent managers, even people who are, in DEI roles within their companies. We want to position them to provide their rising talent with this type of support system, but with some autonomy. We've done research that showed that 80% of professionals prefer mentors that they don't work with. And
Mm,
if you've ever had the
mm,
coworker mentor, it can be a little bit, what do I say? I know
mhm,
that you're in a meeting with my manager right after this. Like, it could be a bit informal, or a bit, uncomfortable, or you're not as willing to be as transparent. And so with our platform, those, managers and leaders can position their rising talent, say, hey, we know you have people that you respect and you admire, bring them onto your board, and we'll have access to see who's actually utilizing it and if they're actually finding value, because they have a dashboard where they could see which people are using the platform, what their sentiment is after board meetings, if they're finding it valuable. But they don't see the content of your newsletter to your
mhm,
family, or to your professional network. And we think that's the right kind of line of visibility for
mhm,
those people.
mhm. That's really good. That's really good. Well, I actually want to redirect the conversation a little bit and actually ask you a more personal question around, like, how did you find yourself walking this path of entrepreneurship? And how have you grown through your decision to dive into Peadbo?
Yeah, yeah. No, myself and my co-founders, we know this problem intimately, because we've lived it.
Mhm,
I I'm a first generation college graduate from Flint, Michigan. Have an amazing family. My family would punch through a brick wall for me, but none of them worked for Google or McKinsey, and those are the places that I found myself in my career. And so there was limits to how they could help me to navigate. And so that experience, of me being in those companies thinking I could just put my head down and outwork everybody, only to learn that you can't outwork the relationships and that you need people to sponsor you and to vouch for you, um, led to me bumping my head more times than I would have liked. But then also saying, how do we make sure that the next group of professionals can avoid some of those roadblocks and obstacles? And I remember vividly being in a board meeting for a company I was doing some consulting for, and just thinking, I need one of these for my life. Because things can be overwhelming. I'm a father. I have all these obligations, and I think you can very easily make the mistake of trying to do it yourself. And like we say, our tagline, self-made is a myth,
Sure
and
is.
not enough people are talking about the people that help them gain access to their success. And so that's what we want to do. We want to democratize that practice. It's not something we made up. Wall Street Journal has been talking about CEOs and executives, personal board of directors for years. I just want that to be something people are thinking about earlier rather than, later in their careers.
And I also appreciate that you're introducing that concept earlier to young people in underrepresented spaces who are characterized as underrepresented, who they might have informal versions of that, but bringing it into their career,
Yeah.
introducing that notion early is really, really, really important and powerful.
Yeah.
Really, really good. So I wanted to also ask, like, what was your experience of Startup Runway? Just as a point of feedback, as also a point of being able to get a sense of how you were able to navigate a pitch event like this, and your some of your thoughts on how you think what your preparation might have looked like to have you win. There's a bunch
No,
of questions mashed
no,
up in
all
there. I'm
good,
sorry.
all good. I think I can formulate a response. But no, my experience was awesome.
Mhm,
Admittedly, that trip to Atlanta was, double duty for me. So,
mhm,
in addition to the competition, I actually did a workshop at NSB the next day for a bunch of college students. And so,
nice.
I had a decent amount on my plate, but I'm so passionate about the work that, it excites me as opposed to overwhelming me. Communication was very clear as in terms of what to expect. I got some great feedback and made some good connections prior to, with the mentors that were provided. And then even Startup Runway post win has been, very active about, kind of helping us to gain additional exposure, talking about the winners, and even something like this, can only help us to get, more awareness. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I will say the timing was really good also because the week prior, I was in the pitch competition at South by Southwest and we won that. And so I knew something that I said worked. And so I knew that I should probably, use some of those same talking points in addition
Mhm,
to, the slides and the other things that I mentioned. So it was a good month of March for us for sure.
Well, obviously, congrats on that piece as well.
Thank you.
Um, so if you were to give a bit of advice to someone who has an idea they're super passionate about and they're kicking the idea around and they want to start, you're a little bit further relative to that person on your
Mhm.
journey. What advice might you give them?
Um, I'll say, if you're like me and it's the idea that's keeping you up at night and you can't stop writing down like little notes, you know, pursue it, but also start early with getting feedback and learning what customers, pain points are and how you can address it. Like I said, we spent, probably about a year doing non-technical. We hadn't coded anything. We were just on Zoom calls saying, hey, this is what a personal advisory board is. This is how it could help. This is how you can manage it. Getting feedback on what was working, what wasn't working, and then saying, okay, how can we build that into the platform before we, apply for any accelerators or anything like that. Admittedly, we had to juggle. I was still working at Google when we started this thing. Um, so that was tough. Get some help if you can. And don't sacrifice too much of your health for it. Make sure you're getting sleep and eating good. Otherwise, you're going to burn out.
I appreciate that. I really, really appreciate the point around having conversations and the customer discovery piece. One thing I've noted is that some people are super hesitant sometimes when they get really impressed with their solution or their technology to to kick the tires on it and be willing to accept what the market or the individuals they're hoping to serve think about that idea or what they really need. So I really appreciated that you spent that much time having the conversation about what the needs are and discovering it.
And then
It's really
also just always be learning. We started with an idea for something that was strictly board management. And then one thing we learned in our startup journey is the value of the investor update and those newsletters. And it kind of clicked for us. If we're going to encourage people to take the business practice of forming boards, then they should also be sending out updates to their broader supporters, because everybody's not going to be on your board. And so just that lesson turned into a feature that some of our users are more excited about than even having a board, because they can just in a few minutes send out an update and an ask to hundreds of people, but not to thousands of LinkedIn connections where there's not necessarily a real relationship.
And that's real, especially something I've noted is in the Startup Runway space, the founders that are mindful to send an update, a newsletter, just allowing their board members, people in the investor space to have them top of mind again. There's so much traction. They get so much traction from that. So
that's it. We
listen into the market and pulling it in.
We like to say, people say it's not what you know, but who you know. And we say, no, it's who knows what you need. Because if you know everybody, but you never tell anyone where you need some help, then why would they help you? They think everything's good. And so you got to raise your hand. You got to say, hey, this isn't working. If anybody knows what we could do better, let us know. And you'll be surprised who responds with, have you thought about this? Or here's someone you should meet.
Spot on. That piece is an absolute gem. Actually, so I wanted to be mindful of time. So I wanted to give you a chance to share what's up next for Peadbo. What would you want our audience to keep their eyes peeled about for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Just, growth, where we have a number of features that we're starting to build out. The mobile app should be coming fairly soon. And then we're also, of course, building in some AI and some machine learning, really so that, in addition to your actual board members, and we want to be very clear, you can't replace real people. I know AI is what it is, but you can't replace the real people.
No.
But we do want you to have some version of a 24/7 board member, to where any questions that you need, and people may be busy, you could still get some feedback, and it can continue to learn about your journey and the things that you could benefit from, and even push to you different resources while you're between board meetings to help you to continue to succeed. So those are things that we're navigating. We're also bringing on a few additional heads, so marketing, product, and some additional developers. So if anybody's watching this and is interested, reach out. And hopefully more contracts with large universities, as well as corporations. But if you just want to use it and you don't want to wait for your school or your company, you can sign up on your own as well.
Love it. So with that, do you have any last thoughts or ideas that you want to leave?
Last thoughts. Gratitude. Want to express gratitude for the opportunity, to participate in the pitch competition, and then of course to the judges for selecting us as winners. But just for anybody out there who is trying to get a promotion, trying to get a new job, trying to break into tech or any other industry, don't make the mistake of trying to do it alone. There are people, whether you realize it or not, who would be happy to help you. You just got to make that happen.
Well said. And last thing, how can people find you?
So we're on Instagram at Peadbo. We're on X at Peadbo, LinkedIn, and then of course Peadbo.com. You can sign up now if you wanted to.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Keith, for sharing a bit. And thank you, listeners, for listening in. Have a great rest of your day.